Let's understand the scheme. The National Rental Affordability Scheme was a Howard government initiative back in 2006. They saw the idea being introduced in or being utilised in the UK and throughout the US. Howard brought it into the government, but by 2007 he was out, Rudd was in, and it was shelved. Nobody used it until the GFC struck end of 2007, beginning of 2008. So they were looking for ways to stimulate the economy. One way they figured was, let's build 50,000 properties quickly. If you build 50,000 properties in 2 to 3 years, you're going to generate GST revenue, stamp duty revenue. You're going to employ tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people throughout that manufacturing, development, construction industry. So it would stimulate the economy, and the government said, let's kill two birds with one stone. Let's make every one of these properties an affordable rental property to fix that gap where, whether it's public servants or people on that style of income, $50,000 to $120,000, were being priced out of the market and couldn't find somewhere to rent. To get a property to be affordable, the government said, okay, we'll discount the market rent. Instead of taking in $400 a week, you've got to take in $320 a week. In order for any landlord to accept a discount in rent, he's going to require something to offset that. And what offsets that is a tax-free incentive every year for a decade, currently sitting at $10,350. If you think of the absolute numbers of an investment, again, if we were going to rent for $400 per week and we have to discount that to $320, but then the government's giving us $200 a week as an incentive, we're $120 better off than we would have been otherwise. On that basis, every single property under this scheme should be phenomenal. Under that basis, 50,000 properties should have been completed by 2012. It's almost 2014, and they haven't completed 20,000 properties. The scheme has had its flaws. The primary flaws we felt with the scheme is they gave the incentives to developers. A developer that has a $100,000 scheme attached to his property instantly assumes it's worth more. And so the pricing all around the country on opportunities with this scheme from 08, 9 and 10 we felt were at a premium, at a substantial premium. Properties which should have been worth $400,000 were asking $450. And sure enough, when you got a valuation and it came in short, the wise investor would walk away. Many didn't. Many paid the premium, but you shouldn't. Secondly, we felt NRAS was being utilised by an awful lot of developers to sell their properties in locations which were poor. They picked up land in the past which simply wasn't a good location. The market changed, and they now were trying to sell these with a scheme attached. We still see these on the market today. The good thing is there have been substantial changes in NRAS over the course of the last 18 months. The government put an expiration date on the entitlements. Developers never figured they'd use that or withdraw the entitlements, but in 2012 they started to. They said if you haven't delivered on these properties, you're going to lose them. We're going to take them back off you. The government's now cleaned out many non-performers in the industry. Silverhall was part of the cleanup. We were asked by the State Government of New South Wales, in alliance with one of the largest consortiums of NRAS providers, to provide stock, alternative stock for New South Wales properties. There were 200 apartments that were going to be built in Sydney, which didn't get built because they were overpriced. We were able to offer 200 alternatives from Campbelltown through the back of Sydney up the Central Coast to Newcastle. And the government accepted everything we put through, and as such, our clients got to buy fantastic assets with the NRAS incentive attached. We are still currently working with the New South Wales, WA and Queensland governments on assisting in new transfers of these incentives over new assets that we believe are investment-grade assets. Most importantly, the assets we're selecting, they work without the incentive. Okay, so the fundamentals of the areas we're in, they work without the incentive. With the incentive, they just get supercharged and the income becomes phenomenal. There is one more round of entitlements to be released at some point. With the change of government, they are now doing a review of the scheme. The new minister made an announcement last week that they will be maintaining the scheme, but they're going to be revisiting it, and we may not see any new entitlements come out until early to middle of next year. So at present, we do have a vast number of these assets around the country. There may be some more next year. I want to quickly take you through the cash flow of a property that has got NRAS versus that doesn't have NRAS. I'm assuming a typical property, $400,000 property. I'm earning $80,000. I'm going to assume an interest rate of 6%. With a property, your primary expense is interest. We also, though, have all those other expenses. We've got our maintenance, our agency fees, our insurances, maybe our strata costs. So to hold a brand new property is going to cost me $29,000. Offsetting that is my income. I've got my rent, and then I've got my tax. My tax refund is determined by taking my income, adding the rent, and then taking off my cash and non-cash deductions. I was paying tax of $18,900. I'm now paying tax of $12,800. So the difference between what I was paying and what I am paying is my refund of $6,000, which is income. That property, therefore, is neutrally geared. It's generating me $8 a week. Is that a good investment? Absolutely. For 15 years, our clients have been doing just this. So long as this $400,000 property becomes $500,000, it's been a great asset. Okay, so our research has been focused on growth. The changes now, if I look at what would change under an NRAS property, firstly, my rent has dropped from $450 back to $360 a week. I've then got over here my NRAS tax-free incentive coming to me of $10,350. This is exactly the same property, which no longer is giving me $8 a week. It's now giving me $140 per week. I've borrowed 100% on this asset. Okay, I've secured it against another asset, but I've borrowed 100%. It's generating me $8,000 a year, or close enough to it. Keep in mind, this is based on a 6% interest rate. We know we can get under 5 right now. What do you do with an extra $8,000 a year? Does that come off your mortgage? Does that go into super? Is that your holiday? Everyone's got their specific objective. Okay, I've purchased these properties with the sole aim of covering school fees for my children. So my focus is generating circa $40,000 to $50,000 a year to cover school fees for the next 10 years. Okay, every year after tax, these properties will be doing that. And so I don't have to think about the amount of money I have to give to private schools throughout the course of education for my children. It's quite remarkable, and all of a sudden we can start looking at income from properties as well as growth. This is the only scheme we've seen to date that can give as dramatic a return as this.